Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom, and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Erevin Daf Nun Gimel. We're beginning a new parak on Nun Beis and Beis towards the bottom. Says the Mishnah, Keitzad ma'arben ha'arim. How are we meant to do ibur to a city? So speaking about establishing the municipal borders of a town, so that we can go ahead and create the territory, the tchum, around the municipal boundary of the city. Now, not all cities have borders which are straight lines. You have perhaps a house that's sticking out. You have protrusions of all types. So the Mishnah will tell us that we're meant to extend the boundary of the city up until the point of that protrusion. Keitzad ma'arben ha'arim. So Rashi says, ma'arben is like an expectant woman, which is an extension of the person. Likewise, a city has an extension, meaning that the boundaries are meant to extend up until they're equal to the protrusions, which are extending beyond the boundaries of the city. It says the Mishnah, Keitzad ma'arben ha'arim, bayis nichnas, bayis yotze. If you have a house going in, a house going out, there's no wall around the city, it's surrounded by houses. So you have one going in, one going out. It's in a zigzag. Or pagam nichnas, pagam yotze. If you have a wall, but the wall has watchtowers, lookouts, and it's pagam nichnas, pagam yotze, meaning there's a protrusion going in, going out. It's not a straight line, rather it's like a zigzag. Or hayisham gedudiyos k'vayis asar tfachim. You had some wall remnants there, some structural remnants which were 10 tfachim high, which were protruding out of the city. Or you have the ugshorim, these bridges, or nefashos, these matzeves on the kaver sheyesh b'hem beis dira, going back to the bridges which have a beis dira, perhaps a hut for the tax collector, for the toll collector. So they have a place of dwelling. So in all these cases, what do? How do we set the boundaries of the city? We take the midah, the measurement, we delineate the boundary of the city, connect them opposite those protrusions. So for instance, if you have one side of the city, let's say the east of the city, which has on one side of it a house sticking out, and this protrusion is not present on the other side of the east boundary of the city. Nevertheless, we take a straight line from the protrusion and mark it straight down all along the east side of that city. So we envision as though the city extends, the east side of that city extends all the way to where the protrusion is. So we are mighty the midah connected opposite that protrusion. That becomes the boundary of the city. Continues the Mishnah. Va'oisen oisan kimin tavel mirabah. This is another factor. Let's say we have a round city. We don't measure a tchum from the circle of the city. Rather, we form it into a square tray. We box it. We create straight angles around the city. We have four corners of 90-degree angles around that city. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a square. Perhaps it's a rectangle. The point is we create straight lines around that city, even if it's a round city. Kadeshi Niskar says obvious, so that he gains and benefits from those corners which you've created around that round city. So it's really supposed to be a round city with a round tchum around it, giving you a radius of 2,000 amma. Rather, we work with a square. We create a box around that city. So he's going to gain because the corners are not really inhabited, but are considered to be part of the city, and then the 2,000 amma are drawn beyond that square, beyond that box. So in two things in our mission. Number one, regarding establishing the actual municipal boundaries of the town itself, we work with the furthest point, with the farthest protrusion, and we create a box around that. We draw a straight line along the protrusion, and Rashi points out that provided the protrusion was within about 70 amma within the city, as we're going to learn later in the Gemara. That's number one. Number two, when it comes to actually creating this, forming the shape of the city, which will serve the basis of the tchum beyond it, who meant to envision it like a square, like a box, like a rectangle, and then measure the tchum beyond that, and this gives him some extra space in the corners. Sheiniskar es hazaviyos. We learn this from the Gemara later. Psukim, cities are meant to be established as boxes, as squares, straight angles, when it comes to measuring the tchum. Continues the Gemara. So we began with Ketzad Ma'abrin Esa'arim. So Rashi tells us that Ma'abrin is a lashon of Isha Ubar, like an expectant woman. Likewise here, we're extending the city opposite those protrusions. Now I actually have a machlekes between Rav Ushmol, Chad Tani Ma'abrin. One spelled it with an ayin, Ma'abrin. V'chad Tani Ma'avrin. The other one spelled it with an aleph. Explains the one. Man Tani Ma'avrin, Aver. Ma'avrin is like a limb, because these are limbs coming out of the city. Uman Tani Ma'avrin. The other one who had the ayin, Kishu Bara, like an expectant woman. On account of this machlekes, the Gemara brings several other machlekes between Ram and Shmuel regarding precise spelling and meaning of words. Ma'aras HaMachpelah, a double cave which was used by Avraham Avinu to bury Sarah. We have machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Chad Amar Shnei Batim Zeh Lifnei Mezeh. There were two rooms, one inside the other. That's why it was called Ma'aras HaMachpelah. V'chad Amar, the other one said, Bayis V'ali Al Gabav. It was actually a two-floored cave. So it's understood according to the one who says it was a double-floored cave. That's why it was called Machpelah, a double cave. However, according to the other approach, that it was merely due to the fact that it had two rooms. My Machpelah. Why Machpelah? That's called a double cave, just because it had two rooms. Says the Gemara, Shechfula bezugos. The reason why it was called Machpelah, because it was full of bezugos, it accommodated many couples. As Morrison will tell us, it had Adam v'Chava, Avram v'Sara, etc. As we learned from the pasuk of Mamre Kiryas Arb, this was the description of Chevron. It was a place which had four. What does that mean? On Rabbi Yitzchak Kiryas, it was a town that had Ha'arba Zogos, accommodated four couples who were buried there. Which were the four couples? Adam v'Chava, Avram v'Sara, Yitzchak v'Rivka, Yaakov v'Leah. So that's why it was called Kiryas Arba, on account of these four couples who were buried there. The pasuk says, "Vayihi b'me'am Rafel." This was when the war broke out in the time of Avraham Avinu. So the pasuk begins describing the story with the days. It was in the days of Amraphel, or some king. So we have machlekes regarding the precise meaning of this word, of this pasuk. Rav Shmuel. Machlekes in Rav Shmuel. Chad Amar Nimrod Shema. His true name was Nimrod. Why then was he called Amraphel? On account of his actions. She'amar, because he instructed V'hipol Avraham Avinu b'tachkiv shenesh. And he threw Avraham Avinu. He instructed them to throw Avraham Avinu into the burning furnace. So his true name was Nimrod. Amraphel is an account of what he did. Amar V'hipol. That's one approach. V'chad Amar, the other one holds, actually Amraphel Shemai. That was his true name. V'lo Nikra Shemai Nimrod. Why was he called Nimrod? Due to his actions. Shehimrid eskolayim kuloi olav malchusay. Because he brought the whole world to rebel against Hashem's kingdom. We have another machlekes in Rav Shmuel regarding the pasuk of Vayokem Melech Chadash al Mitzrayim. So a new king got up and began his reign in Mitzrayim. We have machlekes in Rav Shmuel. Chad Omar Chadash Mamash. He was actually a new king. Chad Omar, he wasn't new. Rather, Shenes Chashuk Zeirosav, his decrees were renewed. Ma'ad Omar Chadash Mamash. The Shita says he was actually a new king. Why? Dechsev Chadash. It says Vayokem Melech Chadash. Do you know that he was indeed a new king? Uman Omar Shenes Chashuk Zeirosav. Now, what is the raya of the Shita that says that he wasn't actually a new king, but his gzeiros were renewed? What's his proof? Because we don't find that the pasuk says Vayamas Vayimlech, that one king died and the other one took over. Apparently, it was one and the same person. According to the view that his gzeiros were renewed, but he was one and the same fellow, he was still the same old pari. Haksiv Ashal Yadas Yosef. Doesn't the pasuk say that he was unfamiliar with Yosef? Now, if he was the same pari as the one during the time of Yosef, why didn't he know Yosef? Says the Gemara, Ma'ash lo yadas Yosef. What does that mean? He wasn't familiar with Yosef, Davadami, he presented himself as though he wasn't familiar with Yosef. It was just a pretense, but certainly he knew Yosef very well. Continues the Gemara, Rav Yochanan, Yudches Yomim Gidalti, Eitzel Rav Yoshia Beribi. I spent 18 days with Rav Yoshia the Great One, who was the great one in his generation. And the only thing I managed to learn from him throughout this entire period was Ela Davar Echad Mishnah Seinu. Only one thing pertaining to our Mishnah, how I went to spell the word Ma'abrin. Ketzad Ma'abrin Esa'arim Ba'alef. Meant to use an Aleph. So it was worth the entire effort just for this one bit of information. Says Ma'ani, that's how he only learned one thing. V'amar B'yechanan Yud Beis Talmidim Hayloi L'Rabbeisha B'Rebbe. He had 12 Talmidim. I spent 18 days amongst them. And I was able to discern the heart, the analytical abilities of each and every one of those Talmidim, and their intellectual abilities. So apparently he learned much more than just one thing. Says the Gemara, Leiv kol echad ve'echad, v'chachmas kol echad ve'echad, Gomar. He discerned their abilities, their capacity, that he was able to see. But Gemara like Gomar. But in actuality, he never learned anything concrete, any halacha, any Gemara, aside from that thing regarding the Ketzad Ma'abrin. Everybody saying another pshat. Minay did hu Gomar. He learned much from them. But Minay did Heila Gomar. But from Ishiv Rebbe himself, the Rebbe, he actually only managed to learn one thing. Everybody saying another pshat. He learned many things pertaining to Brises, to Gemaras, but only one thing pertaining to a Mishnah. When we would learn Torah by Rabbi Yoshe Rebbe, we would crane ourselves, we would squeeze ourselves to get close to him, to listen to his Torah. We would station ourselves 4 people in each Amma. When we would learn Torah by Elazar and Shammua, we would sit 6 together, even in one Amma, a small, tiny area. Mashal says it was a Ma'asa Nisim, was a miracle. Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yoshia Beribi B'Deirei. Rabbi Yoshia Beribi, in his generation, so surpassed the capacity of his colleagues. Just like Rameya B'Deirei, as Rameya was greater than his colleagues in his generation. Rameya B'Deirei, just as Rameya in his generation, Lo Yochlu Chaverov, Lamed Yosef Daita, he was so deep that his friends couldn't comprehend the depth of his positions. Af Rabbi Yoshia, likewise Rabbi Yoshia, Lo Yochlu Chaverov, Lamed Yosef Daita, they couldn't comprehend the depth of his shita, of his opinions. But Rabbi Yochanan, there's such a contrast between the abilities of the former generations and our current generation. Liban shel rishonim, the hearts, the capacity, the analytical abilities of the former generations, their hearts were so wide. Kipisa shel ulam, like the width of the Pesach of the ulam, which was 20 amas wide. Shel achrayim, in contrast to the later generations, whose capacities have diminished to such a great extent, Kipisa shel echel, half the size. It's equated to the opening of the Heichel, which is merely 10 amas wide. V'anu, and we are kimlei nekev machad sidkis. Our hearts have become so constricted, our abilities so limited, merely like the pinel, kimlei nekev, like the pinel of the machad sidkis, this thin sewing needle used to repair cracks in clothing. So it's a thin needle with a small pinhole. That's how constricted our hearts are. It says about Rishonim Rabbi Akiva. Who was he referring to when he said the Rishonim, the early generations of Rabbi Akiva? Achroinim, the latter ones, are Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua. Some have a different approach. Rishonim was Rabbi Elazar ben Shammua. Achroinim, Rabbi Yoshe Beribi. Va'anu, and we, us, is Rabbi Yochanan speaking, we're so small, machat sitkis, like the pinhole of the sewing needle. Amar Abaye. He describes it a bit differently regarding the diminished capacity of the later generations. Va'anan, when it comes to learning and to grasping Torah, ki sichsa beguda legemara. We're created like a peg, like a nail being driven into a wall with much difficulty till it gets in there. That's how hard it is for us to comprehend learning. It's hard for us to understand and comprehend it. Amar Rava, when it comes to svara, to analyzing and delving into the depth of the true meaning of the Torah, this is how it's described. Va'anan, by us, ki adz ba'asa bekir l'svara. When it comes to svara, we have difficulty. It's very difficult, like the finger, like the etzba'asa, being driven into a hard piece of wax. So it doesn't get in too easily. Likewise, we have a very difficult time truly comprehending the depth, the true meaning of the Torah. Amar Rav Ashi, when it comes to memory, look at this. Anan gets ba'asa bebira l'shikha. When it comes to shikha, we're like a finger going in and out of a pit. It just slides in and out easily. That's how quickly the Torah just gets forgotten for us. We had a hard time retaining and remembering the Torah. This brings a different pshat. He says, ki etz ba'asa bebizri. Like a person who puts his finger into mustard seeds. So he creates this little hole there, but as soon as he pulls out his finger, the seeds just go back in their place. So likewise, when we learn one Masechta, when we begin another Masechta, we immediately forget the first Masechta. So that's how limited we are, and we meant to take these limited capacities and our restricted talents and plug away and learn with our keiches. Amar Vid Amarav. We have the Bnei Yehuda, we have the Bnei Gal. People lived in different vicinities in Eretz Yisrael. So there was a difference between the two. Bnei Yehuda was successful in their learning, Bnei Gal were not. The Gemara will explain why. Bnei Yehuda shekpidu al l'shonim. They were makpid on their wording, on their diction, to speak clearly, articulately. As a result of that, niskaima torasam biyadam. The Torah was retained by them. They were able to keep their Torah. Bnei Galil shelo yekpidu al l'shonim. In contrast to the people living in Galil, were not very careful with their diction and their mode of speech. They would mumble and weren't very careful with their choice of words. When niskaima torasam biyadam, as a result, the Torah was not properly retained by them. Says the Gemara, why are these two things related? Midi b'kpedet halimusa. Retention of Torah is dependent on being particular with choice of words. Why? Ella rather as follows. Bnei Yehuda the daiki lishna. The Bnei Yehuda who paid attention, close attention to the precise wording of the Torah which was taught to them. And that enabled them to create simanim, formulas to remember the Torah, because it was so clearly articulated in their minds. They had the wording so clear. Umas nechilu simana, and they would place simanim to remember the Torah, as we find many times in Shas that the Gemara says siman. Like right here now, Amud, we have further back up the second wide line. We have siman shmoina esrei shneim asar. So we find many times the Gemara would string together different halachas, different stories, using just a few choice words, so that one could grab the many halachas in that manner. It helps a person commit it to his long-term memory. So in any case, the Bnei Yehuda, who were very wordy, very particular and medayik in the halachas, in the words of the halachas that they were taught by the Rebbeim, this allowed them to apply these formulas, the simanim, in order to remember it. Niskaima torasam biyadam, therefore the Torah was retained by them, in contrast to the Bnei Galil. The Loi Daiki Lishna, who didn't pay close attention to the wording of the Torah that they were taught, didn't allow them to employ this method. They weren't able to apply these simanim. As a result, they didn't have the proper tools to remember the Torah so well. Another reason for the discrepancy between the success of Bnei Yehuda versus the Bnei Gal, Bnei Yehuda gomer mechad rabba, learned the Torah from one Rebbe consistently. The Torah was retained. Bnei Gal the loy gomer mechad rabba. However, the Bnei Gal who didn't learn it just from one Rebbe, they had many Rebbeim, due to confusion discrepancy in style and approach, the Torah was not retained properly in their hands. Now Tosfos points out, based on the Gemara of Avodah Zarah, actually it is preferred to go learn from many Rabbeim. That the Gemara says, it's not good to only learn from one Rebbe. So Tosfos says, how does this work with Al Gemara? He says, it depends if we're speaking about the actual facts, the knowledge, the Mishnah, or the facts of the Gemara. We're meant to stay with one Rebbe, and that adds consistency to your learning. That's one style, that's one girsa. It avoids confusion. As opposed to the next level, which is svara, to delve and analyze into the meaning, into the svara of Torah. When it comes to that, it's actually better not to stay with one Rebbe, rather go experience different approaches, different shitas, different positions, different ways of thinking and analyzing. That's actually better. Enriches a person's intellect and his analytical abilities. So here we're speaking about just the facts, the Gemara. That we're meant to learn from one Rebbe, so things are clear and consistent without confusion. Ravina Amar, another reason for the success of Bnei Yehuda was as follows. Bnei Yehuda, the Gol Masechta, they would teach the Masechta Torah to others, and Skayim Torah Biyadam. As a result of that, it was Zeicha to retain the Torah properly. Bnei Gol, the Gol Masechta, who did not teach their learning to others, like Skayim Torah Biyadam, they did not merit to retain the Torah properly. David HaMelech Gol Masechta, he would teach Torah to others. Shaul HaMelech, no, like Gol Masechta, he wouldn't teach to others. What does it say as a result? David Gol Masechta, Ksivbe Yireecha Yiruni V'Yismachu. Your fear ones will see me and be happy, because he had the ability to have clarity in Torah and to give Piskei Halacha in Torah. And this was as a result of his Siyata Shmaya, because he would teach Torah to others. Shaul the Gol Masechta, in contrast to Shaul, who did not teach to others, he was not zeich to the same level of learning. Ksivbei el kol asher yifnei yashir, wherever he turned, he was wicked. And Rashi learns that it just means that he was not zeich to conclude with the same clarity as David HaMelech, and this was because he didn't get himself involved in teaching Torah to others. Continues to go with one more aspect regarding Shaul HaMelech, which is actually a bit unrelated. Who do we find that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgave Shaul for the chait of Noivir HaKahanim, who killed out? Shenemar u'mochar atu banecha imi. This was when Shaul communicated with Shmuel after Shmuel's death. He wanted to know whether he should go pursue the Plishtim in the Milchama. And Shmuel responded, tomorrow you're going to come to Olam Haba, you and your sons, together with me. So imi, we learn imi mimchitzasi, together with me in my enclosure, meaning in Olam Haba. Apparently Hashem was Moichel Shaul HaMelech for his aver. Continues the Gemara. Amar Abba, Ika de Mishaluhu Levnei Yehuda. The Daiki Lishna. If there could be somebody that can go ask the people of Yehuda who were particular with the lashon, with the wording, we're going to ask them the following question. Our Mishnah says, Ketzad ma'avrin sa'ar. We want to know whether ma'avrin tnan, we want to spell with an aleph, like an aver, or ma'avrin tnan with an ayin, like an expectant woman. We have another question for them. This is regarding a halacha in the Mishnah B'choris. So they would take the B'chor to check if he had a mum, and they would place him on his lower backside, and the Mishnah describes it as akuzoi, meshivin oisel akuzoi. The question is, how is that meant to be spelled? Akuzoi tnan with an aleph, or akuzoi tnan with an ayin? So we have these two questions regarding spelling, aleph ayin. So if somebody would go ask Ibn Yehuda, who's certainly a proficient with this detail, yadi, then we would know. Shilinu. So somebody went to ask them, and they told him, Ika de tani ma'abrin. Ika tani ma'abrin. It can go both ways. Some learn with an aleph, some learn with an ayin. That's pertaining to our Mishnah. Likewise, pertaining to the other question, Ika de tani akuzai. Ika tani akuzai. Some spell with an aleph, akuzai, and some with an ayin. Continues the Gemara. Bnei Yehuda the Daiki Lishnamai. So we mentioned that the people of Yehuda were exact with their diction and with their choice of words. The one would tell us that this wasn't only pertaining to matters of Torah, but they would conduct themselves in this manner even when it came to just worldly matters. And the Gemara actually would tell us that the Bnei Gadol who would mumble and weren't so particular with their choice of words would cause confusion, actually bring about some comical misunderstanding, as the Gemara soon will tell us. Okay, so let's see some examples. Bnei Yehuda the Daiki Lishnamai. What is an example of it? Bnei Yehuda who were particular with their wording. Dahu bar Yehuda, there was this fellow from Yehuda, the Amrlu, who announced to them, Talis Yeshi Limkar, I have this garment for sale. Amrles, they asked him, Ma Gavan Talischa. What color is it? Amrlu, he was very precise in his description. Kitzradin Ali Adama, like the leaves of the beets above the ground, meaning it's not like the beet in the ground, which is not green, but the leaves of beets which are still connected to the ground. So it's a very specific shade of green. He is very exact and precise in his description of the color of his garment. So that's the Bnei Yehuda. In contrast to the Bnei Gadol, Deloy Daiki Lishna, they weren't very exact and precise in their articulation. Mai, what is an example of such? Dahu bar Glila, there was this fellow from Gadol. Tava Ka'azal, he was walking along by Amar and he announced like this: Amar Laman, Amar Laman. He wanted to purchase an Amar. Now, due to the fact that he was mumbling and didn't speak clearly, they didn't hear clearly what he was trying to say. Amar Leis, they told him, Glila Shaita, you foolish fellow from Gadol. Do you mean Chamar? Because Amar could sound like Chamar. Chamar lemirkav? You want to purchase a donkey to ride on it? Or Chamar lemishti? Or some wine to drink? Amar lemilbash? Some wool to wear? Or Imar liskasa? Or perhaps a lamb to shecht? Hayitza, there was this woman, the boy lemem lechaverta. She wanted to be gracious and invite her friend over for a drink of milk. So she wanted to say, Shlufti, my friend, Tai da'ich lechalba. I'm going to come and I will give you some chalba, some milk to drink. Instead, she said, Amrla, shluchti, which doesn't mean anything, Taich lech lavi. Lavi is a female lion, should devour you, she'd eat you up. So it sounded pretty scary. Just the fact that she didn't bother expressing her words clearly. Hayitza asil kamei the daina. There was this woman who approached a dayan, and she was complaining about her tray, a large-sized tray, which was stolen from her. So Amrle, she told him, she wanted to tell him like this. She had a mind to say, Rashi explains, kiri with a kuf, meaning my master. I had a tabla, a tray, and v'gonvuch min, it was stolen from me, and it was so large in size. This is how it was. A kedai havas, that if I would go ahead and lie on it, my feet wouldn't reach the ground. So this is what she had in mind, but instead she mumbled and she came across very unclear. Amalei, she told him like this: Mari Kiri. Kiri actually says the lashon of Eved, my servant. So she's addressing the judge in a disrespectful manner. Tafla, instead of tavla, which is a tray, tafla obviously had this beam. The gonvuch min, which sounds like they stole you. The kadoy havis, instead of saying the kadan havis, this is what it was. Kadoy, now it was. So she's just sowing confusion here. The kad shadru loch iluya, if they would put you, hang you, she's speaking to the judge, on this tray, which again is disrespectful. Limati karach ari, your feet wouldn't reach the ground. So she didn't articulate her words clearly, and she created confusion and lack of respect. It says in more Amar Sadeve Rebbe. So this maidservant in the home of Rebbe, who is quoted actually several times in the Gemara, she apparently was a wise woman. When she would speak in a lashon of chachma, amrahachi, she would say as follows. So apparently there were guests, talmidim, who were eating in the house of Rebbe, and when there was no wine left, she would say like this: Alas is the pitcher which is sitting in the barrel. Nakvas is already banging bekad on the bottom of the barrel, meaning there's no wine left. Yidun nishraya lekinein. eagles should go back to their nests. Marshal explains that she was trying to send them a message to go home, meal's over. So she chose these words in order to convey the message in an indirect and diplomatic way, in a respectful way. When she wanted them to stay there, to sit further, Hava Amrlu, she would tell them, Ya'adi basa chaverta mina, that the lid on top of chaverta should be removed from it. Meaning, we're going to open a new barrel, v'siskafi alas bekat, and as a result, the alas, the pitcher, will float inside this barrel, ki ilfa da'agl b'yama, like a ship floating in the ocean. So yadi basar chaverta mina means, yadi means we're going to remove basar, the lid chaverta, from its friend, from the next barrel, mina, from it, in order to allow the meal to continue. Now, there's another pshat in the Gemara here, another girsa, that learns that she was actually addressing the host, Rebbe. She didn't want them to understand, so she would ask him, look, there's the pitcher which is hit the bottom of the barrel. Would you like to continue? We'd like to send them home? Or would you like us to open another barrel so that the thing will float again, and they can go ahead and stick around? And the girsa according to that is that Rebbe would respond to her, no, let's remove another lid from the next barrel. So according to this approach, the reason why she spoke in cryptic language so that they shouldn't understand what she was trying to say. Okay, so she spoke in Lashon Chachma, in wise language, picking the right choice of words to convey her message. Rabbi Yosef bar Asyan, when he wanted to speak in a Lashon of Chachma, Rashi says so that others don't understand, Amar, he said like this, prepare my food as follows. Asoli shor b'mishpat, prepare for me a shor, an ox, b'mishpat, in judgment. So, shor in Aramaic is tur, b'mishpat could mean also din. So what it meant was trodden. Trodden are beets. So prepare for me shor b'mishpat, which is just another way of saying trodden, turden, beets. B'tur miskin. Tur is a mountain in Aramaic. Tur in Hebrew is har, a mountain. Miskin, poor. So another word for poor is dal. So b'tur miskin means behar dal, bechardal. Prepare for me beets in mustard. V'kadav shol b'shpiza. When Rabbi Yossi wanted to ask for advice regarding a specific host, Amar Hachi, so he used cryptic language so that it's not understood by all. He spoke in a riddle form. He wanted to know whether the ushpiza is of any good. So he said like this. He referred to the word ushpiza with the following words, a compilation of the following words. Gvar means a man, so it's ish, the beginning of the word ushpiza. Gvar is ish. Pum, a mouth, so pi, so ushpi. Dain, this, so ushpi, zu. So that's how he got to the word ushpiza in a riddle form. I want to know if this host is chai, he's alive, meaning, is he good? And in reference to his wife, he said, Mazu toiv yesh, does she have any good? This is his way of asking, inquiring as to the quality of a specific hotel. When he spoke in a Lashon of Chachma, he said like this, Hava Amar Hachi, Asrigulu pechamin. Get the pechamin, the coals, all worked up, all red, like the esrig. Fire up the coals. Arkiul is a oven. Spread out the coals, which were colors gold coals. So prepare the coals. Vasuli shnei magidei balata, and prepare for me 2 chickens. Magidei means they inform balata. In the darkness, they indicate the changeover between night and day. So this was his way of asking them to prepare for him 2 roasted chickens. Ikad Amri, another version was, V'yasuli bahen, prepare for me in them and those coals, Shnei magidei balata, 2 of these chickens. Amrlei Rabbanan Rabavo. the Talmidim approached Rabbi Avo with the following request: Hatzbinenu, can you show us Hechan Rabbi Loi Tzafon? Where Rabbi Loi is hiding out? We can't find him. Amar Lehans, he told him, you know why you can't find him? Because he's actually catching up on some sleep. He was up late into the night. Why? Olad's benara, he was joyous with a nara aharoinis. Aharoinis, ironis, venirasai. This is a cryptic response, to which the Gemara has two approaches. Amri la isha. Some say he was referring to an isha who kept him up. V'amri la masechta. Some say it was a masechta that kept him up. So according to the version that it was an isha, this is what he meant to say. Olad's benara, he was joyous with a young woman, aharoinis. A Kehenes, a descendant of Aaron HaKohen, Acharonis, who was actually his second wife. Ironis, she was a sharp woman. Vinirase, and due to her sharpness, she kept him up. They were engaged in deep, meaningful conversations. So this is according to the approach that it was an Isha that kept him up. V'amil Masechta. Some say that he's referring to a Masechta. So what he meant to say was, Olad's benara, he was joyous with a Nara young woman, which is a mashal to a Masechta in Torah. Which Masechta was it? Aharonis. It was from Seder Kachim, which contains the halachas of Karbonis, pertaining to Aaron HaKohen and his descendants. Aharonis was actually the second Masechta that he was learning that night. Ironis, a sharp Masechta, Vinirasai, which kept him up. So it's either the Masechta or the Isha. You know, I once read a letter that Rabbi Akiva Eiger wrote after his wife's passing. He was so heartbroken, and it was in response to a person who suggested a shidduch to him. And he responded very sharply. He says, how could you even suggest something like this? In this moment, I'm so broken. My wife just passed away. I'm in mourning. We were so close. And he writes that they used to have such meaningful discussions. They used to conduct these deep conversations late into the night. He says, I miss her so much. How could you even entertain the concept of remarriage? So eventually he overcame. He remarried. I think he married his wife's sister. So that's the Isha that kept him up late into the night. So it's either the Isha or the Masechta that he's referring to. Continues the Gemara. Amrlei Rabbi Loi. So this time the Talmidim asked Rabbi Loi, Hatzbinenu, can you show us Heichen Rabbi Avo Tzafon? Where's Rabbi Avo hiding? We want to try to find him. Amar Lehens, he told them he's actually located elsewhere. Nisyaitz b'machter, he went to get reshus, to get permission, to get smicha from the nasi, who is referenced as the machter. Machter is a lashon of keser, a crown. So the nasi would grant permission for a person to be called a rebbe. He would give smicha. So Rabbi Avo received smicha, and then he went to the chachamim v'hingif v'fiboishes. When he got the smicha here, he went south. So hingif means he went Negev south, and fiboishes to spend time with the other chachamim. And the chachamim, the people in Ziknei in Dorim, are great chachamim, and that's why they're called Mephibosheth, because Mephibosheth was actually also a great wise man, a big chacham. Continues the Gemara. Omar Meshua ben Chananya, mi yomai, my entire life, lo nitzchani adam, nobody was victorious against me when it came to debate and conversation. He was very talented when it came to conducting debates against the heretics, etc. So, despite his great talent, and nobody was ever menatzeach me, nobody ever prevailed against me, except, he says, except for 3 times. Chutz mi isha tinik u'tinekes. 3 times it happened that I was won over. So Ben Yehuda explains that he was being humble, despite my great capacity and my debating abilities. I was won over 3 times. Isha Mai. What is the story with the Isha? Who won him over? I was once a guest at a certain place. So she prepared for me as follows. Asisali Pulin, she prepared for me beans. First day I ate them. I didn't leave anything over. Shniya, the second day, same thing happened. I ate it, and I completed the entire portion. On the third day, it so happens that she added too much salt. She burnt it. It was inedible. I took one taste, I pulled away from it. Amar li Rebbe, so she asked me, Rebbe, mipnei ma in chasoid? Why are you not eating? Amarti la, so I responded, I didn't want to insult her. I said, Kfar sa'alti b'yom, I already ate today. Amar li, so she told me, Haylecha limshach yadechem rapas. So you should have avoided the bread. Why do you avoid the main dish? Amar li, so then she said, well, maybe there's something here. Rebbe, shema lo hinachta peh b'rishonim. Perhaps the reason why you're not eating is because you neglected to leave some food over during the previous days, which is meant to be proper practice. Haven't the Chacham told us as follows: the servant who pours the food from the pot into the bowl doesn't leave anything over in the pot for himself. But the guest is meant to leave something over in the bowl to serve the servant. So perhaps that's why you left some over now. You refrained from eating altogether because you remember that you have neglected this halacha. You didn't leave anything over in the previous days. So now you're making up for those days. So Rabbi Shimon Hanania conceded defeat. Yeah, she was right. He was meant to leave some over from his food for the shamas. What is the story with the Tinoik? It's a young girl. Tinoik is my. I was once walking along the road. This road, this path was going right through a privately owned field. I was walking along. This young Tinoik told me, Rabbi, isn't this a field that you're traversing? What right do you have to go through a privately owned field? I told her, isn't this a trodden path? It's a public access way. What's the problem? She told me, list him robbers just like you trod upon this path and trampled it and made it into a pathway. It doesn't justify things. It's privately owned. You're not meant to walk here. So she prevailed. Tinoik Mahi. What is the story of the young boy? I was once walking along the road and approaching a city. I noticed this young boy sitting at the crossroads. And I asked him, what's the way to get to the city? Amar Li, he says you have a choice between two. Zug tzar v'arucha. This route is short, but it's very long. So we're going to see what he meant. He meant that it's short in distance, but it's convoluted. It won't get you to the city. V'zu, however, the other road is arucha. So, as far as the distance, it's longer. Uktzara, but it's actually shorter because it's a more direct route. It will get you to the city. This is what he meant. But Rabbi Shua didn't probably understand his intention. So I walked on the first one, which was Ktsara. I figured, short route, why not? So indeed it was a short route. It got me right near the city, but once I got to the city, I saw it was inaccessible, impassable. I see the city surrounded with gardens, orchards, no way to get through. So I went back. And I went over to the child and I said, B'ni, didn't you tell me that it was a short route? Look, I couldn't get to the city. So he told him, but didn't I tell you? Arucha. I said tzara, but then I added tzara v'arucha. This is what I had in mind. Yeah, it looks short and convenient, but then you get stuck. You weren't meant to take that route. Rather, you should have taken the one which is arucha, which is long, but tzara, it gets you to the city. So, Rabbi Shua ben Chananya was very impressed with his wisdom. Nashaktiv al Roshai. I was so proud of him. I gave him a kiss on his head. Although he won me over, but I was so full of pride, I gave him a kiss. So Martile, and I told him, Ashreichem Yisrael. Fortunate are you, Klal Yisrael, Shekulchem Chachamim Gdeilim. You're all great, wise people. Migdolchem Vat Kotnechem. From your eldest down to your youngest. So although he conceded defeat, he won him over. But he was so proud of him and he gave him a kiss. You know, there was once a story with the rugged Shavagoyin, Yosef Rozhin from the town of Dvinsk, who was a Rav in the town alongside Rami Simcha of Dvinsk, the Or Sameach. So Or Sameach was a Rav of the non-Hasidic committee, and the rugged Shavagoyin was a a master of Klal Torah Kula, and also very sharp. He was a Rav of the Hasidim. So the story was that he was once sitting by Shalosh Shudas in Shul, and he was giving the drasha, and he quoted a pasuk. And from the back, suddenly a voice rings out, a voice of a young boy, and he says, "Rebbe, es steht nicht a pasuk verkehrt? Doesn't it say in the pasuk differently than you quoted?" Everybody turned around in shock. The sincere brazenness of this young child, all of 6 years old, and the Rogatchover pointed to him to come up front. And the boy slowly makes his way up to the front, and everybody's quivering. Rogatchover was known as a very sharp person. The boy makes his way up to the Rav, and he comes in beside him. The Rav turns to him, bends down, gives him a kiss on his forehead. Continues the Gemara. Rabbi Yossi Aglili have a ka'azal ba'urcha. He was traveling the road. Ashechel Bruria. He encountered Bruria, who was the wife of Rameir. Amarla. So he asked her for directions. Be'ezei derech ne'ech Lud. What's the road for us to go to Lud? Which way to Lud? Amarla, so she told him. So he used 4 words, right? He said, Be'ezei derech ne'ech Lud. So she told him, Glili, Shaita, you foolish fellow from Gala, like Chacham, then Chacham teach us. Al tar b'sicham isha. One is not meant to engage in excess conversation with a woman. Why did you use 4 words to ask the question? You should have been more concise. That's all you need to say. Self-understood that you're asking for directions. So, use too many words. This is consistent with what we said earlier. The Bnei Yehuda were very precise and exact in their wording, in contrast to Bnei Gol. Continues the Gemara. Bruria, the same woman, encountered this Talmud of a Kagaris Belachisha, who was learning, but quietly. Bachabe, she kicked towards him. Amalei, she told him, Loikach Kosov, doesn't the pasuk say Arucha B'Kol Shmur? The Torah is set and organized. It is safeguarded. What does this mean? Im Arucha B'Ramach Ivorim Shalcha Mishtameres. If it's embedded and absorbed and organized within your 248 Ivorim, meaning you invest your effort and your energy in Torah, you articulate it, you express it in words, Mishtameres, it will be safeguarded. But otherwise you just sit there and mumble and whisper, Eina Mishtameres, you won't retain the Torah. You won't have the Shmirah. You'll forget it. You're meant to learn expressing the words out loud. Okay, so in summary, we learned about the city's municipal boundaries. We're meant to extend it up until the protrusion, and then from there go ahead and create the tchum. We proceeded with several machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Number 1, Keitzad ma'abr nesa'aron. Is it spelled with an ayin, like isha ubara, expectant woman, or is it ma'abran with an aleph, the limbs of the city? Maras Machpelah is called Machpelah due to the fact that it was a double-tiered cave, or due to the fact that there were many couples buried within it. Vayib me'am Rafal. Was that his real name? Was it really Nimrod? Vayokim melech chadash al Mitzrayim. Was it a new melech, or the same old Pari, who pretended not to know Yosef? He just renewed his gzeros and made them strict and severe against Klal Yisrael. We learned from Rabbi Yochanan that there's a tremendous gap between the abilities of the former generations and our generation. We learned about the Bnei Yehuda, who paid close attention to the words of the Torah they learned from their Rebbe. This allowed them to retain it properly, to attach simanim, to commit it to their long-term memory. We learned about the Bnei Yehuda who were careful in their articulation and their diction, whether when it pertained to the Torah or even worldly matters. We had the story of Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, who conceded that there was an Isha, a Tinekis, who won him over. We concluded with 2 stories of Bruria, the wife of Rameir. In the first case, she opined that Reis Aglili spoke too much. In the second case, that the Talmud was speaking too little. In order to truly retain the Torah, and to express it, if it's embedded and absorbed throughout the entire body, the person invests his energy and his whole body into his Torah, then it gets properly absorbed and fused within him. Mishtameres, it's safeguarded within him.